I'm going to try to communicate this, but I don't know if I can. Exodus 17, verse 8. Then Amalek came and fought against Israel at Rephidim. So Moses said to Joshua, "Choose men for us and go out, fight against Amalek. Tomorrow I will station myself on the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses told him and fought against Amalek. And Moses and Aaron and Hur went up to the top of the hill. So it came about when Moses held his hands up that Israel prevailed. And when he let his hands down, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy. So they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and one side on the other. Thus his hands were steady until the setting of the sun. So Joshua overwhelmed Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Now, the question you may have today is, what does that have to do with the cross and the resurrection? And I've read the story to you, but to give you context, they had just gone through the Exodus experience, and they were attacked, and they felt hopeless. And Moses said, "I'm going to go up on that hill with the staff of God in my hand, and I'm going to hold it up." And when he held it up, they were winning. When he held it up, they were winning. And when his hands lowered, they were losing. And when he held it up, they were winning. Then eventually his hands became heavy. Then Aaron and Hur had to come and help him. Sat him on a stone, and his hands were up, and they ended up winning the whole battle. But let me retell that story with a little bit of a Hebrew backdrop. Moses says, "I'm going to go up on that hill with the staff of God." His hands are getting tired. And then Aaron comes alongside of him on that hill on this side. And Aaron's name means light on a hill. And as he's standing there, Hur comes on the other side of that hill. So there's two men, one on each side as he's standing on the hill. And Hur means purifying fire. And it says that when he sat on the stone, his hands were steady. But you know what that word steady is in Hebrew? It means faith. And the rabbis actually taught that when Joshua was in the valley, he would look up and he would see that man on the hill. And he would see his steady hands, and he would see faith. And as he would lose or as he would miss a step, he would look up and see that man in the middle, that man, that light on the hill, standing there. And in faith, he would fight harder and harder. And when it looked like he was going to lose it, he was going to lose that battle, that man on the hill was what he would stare at to fight. The man on the hill. The man in the middle. Let me paint another picture for you. When Jesus was crucified, they had to nail his feet to the cross. But I don't know if you know how crucifixions work, but when they nailed his feet to the cross, they had to bend his legs a little bit like this, and his hands were like this. So the way they killed them was, in order to breathe, they had to stand up. So it looked like they're sitting down. And when they stood up, their hands went like this so they could breathe. And when their legs got tired, they went back to a seated position, and their hands went like this, and their head hung low. And it looked like his hands were being raised. I don't know if you can see it, but I sure can. There was a man on that hill, and on both sides of that man was a thief and a robber. One was saved, one was not. Two men on that hill. And he was up there, hands down when he's trying to live. Can't defeat death if he doesn't die, does it? Right? Hands up, hands down. And eventually, the man on that hill would die, and his hands were up. And they stayed up through the night as the sun went down. And there was victory in death right there on the spot. If you are going through a valley, if you are in a battle, there's still that man on the hill. You can still look to him and see faith. You can still look to him and say, there he is. He has his hands in the air. He has defeated death. But there's one more tiny detail. It says that Moses sat on the stone. Where's the only other place you see that? Resurrection. And that tells me that God has a sense of humor, that he knew from the beginning that Jesus' hands would be on that cross raised up, but he wasn't going to stay there. He was going to get up again. And he was going to rise again. And that's what Easter's all about. Yeah. Amen? That man on that hill, the man in the middle, he's how you get to God. He paid it all. Grace flows down from that hill.